We are live on YouTube. And here we go. Nope, messed it up. All right, YouTube listeners get a free watching me make mistakes. All right, guys, with technical difficulties aside, I've got a show to do. So I've got Vivian Shipe with me here today. She's running for seat 11, the at-large county commission seat. We're going to talk about that. We've already talked to at least one, if not both, the other candidates running for this seat as well. Format, structure, things I got to get out of the way. We're almost in agreement at gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. You go to our website, almostinagreement.com. The jobs description sheet is up and running. I'm still filling out some of that, and I've just started working on an election cheat sheet, which is just going to give you a quick breakdown of who's running, and if I've had an episode with them, a link to the episode, as well as a link to their website or Facebook page or whatever they're using for their platform. So I'm working on that as well. So if I didn't have enough to do with the 300 people I have to interview for this cycle, I'm doing more on top of that just because I guess I don't like myself as much, or maybe it's the family. I just like to avoid the family. Anyway, we're almost in agreement. Vivian Shipe's here, and we're going to talk about commission and seat 11. So Vivian is a, what's the word I'm looking for here? I don't know why I'm blanking on this word. A prompt individual. I'm so used to everybody showing up like right at the time agreed upon because everybody's running around doing all their crazy campaigning and stuff. And Vivian goes, and it's not even 1 o'clock when she was supposed to be here, and we're already starting. So Vivian Shipe, seat 11, county commission. All right. So always with new people I haven't had on the show before, I want to do you're what, 35? So what have you been doing for the last 30 years that got you to where you are today?
Oh, no, I want all my years.
Okay, take credit. 66.
I am 66. And I've been an advocate, I guess, for almost 50 years. 50 years this year.
Okay.
Yes, so I started that out when I was 16, when we walked out of Austin East. Then I also continued that advocacy when we're the first ones to get the Black Cultural Center at UT campus when I was there, when it was just a little white house off of Southern Avenue. So we have gone and moved on from that throughout the years as being a voice for those that don't have a voice. And that pretty much started and really kind of came to full fruition when we started fighting for the safety center. Mm-hmm. And I got involved with that. It was a huge collaboration with the city, with the, Randy Nichols, County Commission, the Sheriff's Department, the Police Department. But my piece as a parent of someone that had mental illness came because what happened was when my child developed onset adult mental illness, we found that there was no place for them. At that time, 25% of the jail was housed the mentally ill because there was nowhere to put them. So when you come out, there's plenty of places at that time that if you had a drug addiction, that they'd have a place for you to go and rehab. Mm-hmm. But what we started finding when we started trying to find places was we would hear, there's no place for your kind here. We don't have any, there's nothing wrong. They're an ideal client. They're doing everything we tell you, but we just don't have any services for you. And so, it became very frustrating, as a parent when you see, your child suffering and then you look around, you see the number of people suffering because, like I said, about average 275 people at that time in that jail were suffering from mental illness, which is like an addiction. Right. It's like a disease. If you have a kidney problem, that's a disease of the kidneys. Your heart hurts, you have issues with your heart, it's a disease of the heart. Right. So when you have issues with the brain, it's a disease of the brain. So I was really upset when I was just crying about it. I didn't know what to do. I knew my child was going through. I knew so many other people and their parents was going through. And so I'm sitting there in my bedroom. It's like 4 a.m. And I'm just crying out to the Lord. I don't know what to do because I'm a Christian. Mm-hmm. And so I'm brokenhearted. And I tell you, I heard a voice tell them I sent you. And I looked around, my baby sleep over on the floor. There's nobody else in the room with me. And I heard the voice said, tell them I am sent you. And so I said, okay, Lord, you're talking to me. And so he had my full attention. And I said, okay, Father, what do you want me to do? He said, just as I sent Moses to Egypt before the Pharaoh, so shall I send you before the kings and queens to speak to my people. And so that began a journey that it took us years to get that safety center. But with that collaboration and working and going back and forth over and over and again before the different groups, doing surveys. And, I had one person come up and tell me, you keep coming up in here year after year. Sometimes you're the only one in here. And I don't see anybody else in here, but it's not like you got 1,000 people behind you that want to help the mentally ill.
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing that I have learned in life is that community is about the power of we.
Right.
And so what I did was we got a bunch of clipboards and we went out to all parts of the city and the county, and we would stand in front of grocery stores, and we stand at the bottom of the hills for the football games, and we would just have a little survey that says, would you support a safety center for the mentally ill? Because see, it was a revolving door for the mentally ill.
Right.
You would have a mental health crisis, you would go in, you get fines and fees, you'd be right back on the street again. It's just a never ending cycle. And so after about 3 months, I went back to that person and I laid them that clipboard down with 1,000 names. I said, here's your 1,000 names.
There you go.
Okay. So that's what you have to understand is we got power. And I understood that, but we have to work together. So it's
a lot of that legwork. A lot of
Yes,
that legwork that's that and I think I'm as guilty of it as the next person is that I don't want to do the legwork. I don't want to look at it. And that's why I was joking in the intro. I've all like a lot of this started because nobody was doing the legwork for me. And so it's fine, I'll start doing some of this legwork because I don't local coverage of elections has been outside of mayor races and maybe a little bit this last year's city race just because it was so obnoxiously partisan over the top and that whole debacle. Our local media doesn't cover local politics very well. And I always make the references that we, the voters, are the hiring managers. This is the job, the job of a commissioner, and we'll talk about that more here in a little bit, but the job of the commissioner is XYZ. I would argue to death if we took some clipboards out, wouldn't stand out inside in front of some grocery stores and did a quick 3 to 5 question survey on how much can county commission affect your schools and do a 1 through 5. I'll bet you a lot of people say 4 or 5. I'll bet you, especially if we ask about the mayor, we say, how much can Mayor Jacobs make a difference in your kids' schools? They're going to say 4 or 5 on a 5-point scale. When the reality is it's 0 or 1. It's really just some budget conversation. And with the lack of engagement and the lack of any sort of effort on media's part to get this out to the public, how are we supposed to know? And so I'm stubborn enough, I guess, that I decided I was going to start doing it myself. And it's not that I'm better at it or I have some special skill that makes it okay. It's just that it's not here and it needs to be.
Right. So you're bold and courageous. See, that's the thing that people don't. Yeah. Accept it. Accept. We got to walk in what your purpose is. You have a purpose. You have a voice. So understand that what you're doing is important. And that's what I'm trying to understand for people to understand. When I come, I want to run for this office. It's kind of like a marriage proposal. Okay.
Right.
So I've come to your program almost in agreement because I want to represent the people. Let me give you an example. So a man or a woman goes to the parents like they used to, and say, I want to marry your daughter. And I'm going to marry your daughter. I'm going to marry your son. I'm going to do this, this, and this. And they're going to say, whoa, wait a minute. Wait, hold up. Who are you?
Right.
Hey, what have you done? Where you come from? And so that's the way I see it when I come to your program, a place like Hubert Smith or Doug VM and different shows that I come and I want to present. I want to represent you. Okay.
Right.
So this is who I am. So that's why I'm on your show. I want to tell people who I am, what I've done, that I'm not just coming here empty handed with empty promises. I have lived experiences that will help you in, some of the areas that we're trying to make this city and county greater.
Right. Because I think it's, I think that's one of the things that's missing is that, is more depth on the individuals that are seeking these seats. It's just kind of, I go down this list and, there's a bunch of names on here and some of them I recognize, but most of them I don't. Right. And how do I know anything about these people, their Facebook page and their website? Because again, I go back to some of the origin stories of what we do. We were talking about this before we started recording, but we started doing the podcast, which was really just me and some buddies hanging out, drinking a few beers, making jokes and whatever. But all the time in the history of us being buddies before the podcast, even, we'd always kind of devolve into this, man, local government's important. Why don't we pay more attention? And so we started doing the podcast and did that, and it was right into the 2020 election cycle. We started with the pandemic essentially, And so we start pulling stuff up on the internet, and it's like, here's this list of people running, don't know anything about them. And, I credit Gina Oster with a lot of it because I'm in District 18, which is the seat that she was running for back in 2020. And I was like, the only thing I could find on her was a teeny tiny article in WVLT, her website, her Facebook page.
I say you're a trusted messenger. That's one
No, don't say that.
I keep telling you, you got to walk in your person. When you are a true voice, okay, you have connections all through, okay, and you're willing to present. Here's the facts. Here's the information. I went. You did the legwork. It's just like when we did the vaccine clinics. They were trying such a hard time to get in certain areas. But see, you didn't go to the trusted messenger. You didn't know the person. Like we were trying to work with the North Knoxville community. And so you go and you go talk to the people that are out there doing the work, like you're doing the work, okay? They then are paid attention to by the people in that community. We're like 9 district plus 2, all right?
Right.
Each one of those is a community. So when the person,
And even in that, each one of those has a couple of communities to boot.
Yes, there are
Right.
sub-communities in there. So when you are able to come, you're a messenger to say, okay, I'm going to listen to his show. All right, he's going to have her own, and I'm going to hear what she has to say because I listen to what he does. It's just like we were able to, we've given over like 80,000 vaccines, but we're able to because that trusted messenger is there that
Right.
was willing to open the door.
Right.
So I think that we got to understand that each, like you said, there are sub-communities within the communities and the 9 districts that we have in this county.
So then why 11 of all because we didn't talk about what district do you actually reside in?
I live here in District 3, but what I want to do is, when I call us the plus ones, the
Right.
10 and 11 at large, because when you have those issues that come up in those different districts, and that's one of the things that we are doing with my campaign is that we have started listening to her. And we
Right.
started back in November. We started going to the different areas of the communities from Halls to Deep West Knoxville. We're talking about, Knox County is not only just north, south, east, west.
Right.
That is also, you're talking about Corns and Powell and high school. And so what we've been doing is we've been going in and just listening. People have invited us to their picnics or to their backyards or to their church groups. And we sit down and we listen, like, tell me about your community. Tell me what it is that you want to see. And so, because we can't just go in, bells and whistles flying and I'm going to save the world. You don't know nothing about here.
Right.
Come over here and let's talk about it. We're talking about development. We're talking about trees and sidewalks and runoff and, the growth. We're looking at not just the expansion and growth when we talk to people about, of course, the growth in Hardin Valley and the growth in South Knoxville. But what is the projected growth for the other areas that make up Knox County?
Right. And even though, and I think a good way to look at it too, it's like, fine, even if every person that moves into Knox County in the next year all moves into Hardin Valley, they're going to use the rest of the services that are here in the county anyway. They're going to be traveling up and down the roads that we all use. They're going to be using the interstate. They're going to be using the parks and the other systems that we have. So, even if, I'm kind of, I'm on the west end of town, but, even if I'm like, my business is up in Powell, way over there on the other edge of whatever. But what happens in Hardin Valley impacts up there too.
Amen.
People travel up there and use the different services and the parks and the things that are Knox County that way, or where they're traveling through there to get to some other part of the state or whatever. But that every ounce of Knox County has impact on itself, which I guess that answers the 11. So to go back, because we kind of cut the origin story short, it was pretty clear that you felt a call to serve, and I sort of asked it a little bit in that conversation as well. But why County Commission and why seat 11?
We're raised. I'm the oldest of 5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my mother was a teacher up in the Appalachia, up in the mountains. She taught in a one-room schoolhouse, kindergarten through 12th grade. My father was a veteran of World War II in Korea. He was one of the first blacks hired at the Postal Service, and he became the union president. And when I worked there for 35 years, I followed in his footsteps and became the union president also. But we were raised with decrees. Number one, there's 5 of us. You shall be a college graduate.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is you give back, that you work in the community. So right from the beginning, we were always trained that you got to help somebody else. So I had tried to run before I retired from the Postal Service, but, of course, they quickly called me from Washington and said, you cannot run because the Hatch Act says that you cannot run in a partisan
Right,
race.
because you're a federal employee.
I was a federal employee.
Yeah, that makes sense. makes sense, but makes sense. I follow the logic. I don't know if it makes sense, but yeah, I get what you're saying. Right, because I mean, again, that's one of the things that is astounding to me the further I get into trying to understand all the parts and pieces of this and what the rules are and kind of stuff like that. Because I have a whole union set of questions that has nothing to do with your campaign that I might want to we'll save for later if we have some time. But again, it's so you couldn't while you were working because of the Hatch Act.
Now I'm able to step up.
Right now that you're retired, you'll be able to do that because this is something decreed upon you by your father. This is one of the ways to fill that second rule of your dad.
Yes, and what's so funny is when we talk about the things that your parents would like for you to do, one of the things that when we're looking at one of our platforms, we're talking about education. Of course, we're looking at people come to me all the time, about these questions and these concerns. And I've been for years and years, almost 50 years, I always go in front of city council, county commission, I'm on the state pre-arrest diversion committee. So I'm always going before the council or whatever the legislative body is, going before the kings and queens to speak and fight for those that cannot help themselves.
Right.
So, but now what I want to try to do is I want to try to move to that other side of the table. I want to go behind the throne room, as it is.
Right.
And I want to be able to try to make sure that we have access and growth for everybody. So that's one of the reasons that I'm trying to work. And I see all of the need, and having the experience of being like a parent of someone with mental illness, dealing with the issues of affordable housing. Let me go to the table and with my experiences, because you are a valuable person. I'll give you an example. Remember Silence of the Lambs?
Yeah.
One of the
is she going to call me Hannibal here? That's fine. That's cool. On my own show, calling me a serial killer. It's
told
cool.
you I was both great. No, but when we're talking about issues where you have to have somebody that gives you a different viewpoint. One of the best scenes in that opening scenes is when they're examining this woman, and that she has all these bruises and things on her, right? And they're thinking, and they're in their mind, they're conceptualizing and just talking about, oh, she must have been beaten and all of this. And remember, the young lady says, no, those are the bra strap marks. See that?
Right. Because a bunch of dudes aren't thinking about that because they don't wear bras.
They don't have that lived experience.
Right.
They don't understand that. So that's an example of when we come to the table, we're coming with different viewpoints. We're coming with different lived experience. We're coming to expand the mind. Let's make you think another way. Let's think about something we might not have thought about. So that's what I'm trying to do, is come and be on that table, and let's talk about it. Let's help these people, because this is something we may not have thought about.
Right. And that's one of those things that as I've gotten older, I've at least got the ability to recognize that I don't know those things. I'm not really great at the empathy part, where I can actually start to put on the shoes, for lack of a better word, but I can at least stop myself and recognize that I don't. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't really do or think about. They're either all the way really good at it and they can empathize with other people, or they just plain can't. But I'm like somewhere in the middle at this point, where it's I acknowledge that I don't understand that.
But you have a willingness.
Right. And that's what and again, that's one of the things that always confuses me about some of the greater media things, is it's always preachy. It's always this is and this is and this is and this is what this means. And it's like, I don't like, my perspective doesn't always agree with that. And I can only imagine understanding that there are a lot of other perspectives than mine. That, okay, maybe some people that is perspectively correct, but I just don't feel like it's, especially now in the partisanship world that we've turned ourselves into, that I refuse to believe that the majority of people, whether the shoe is that far left or right, whatever you want to call it, are fully fixed on the point of views that we are being told exist for these bodies. I had Oakley in the other day, and she was talking about it. She explained, she kind of put it as the aisle is getting wider. Like this whole idea of the aisle being the separation between the Republicans and the Democrats in the House or whatever. Well, I think the aisle's getting wider, and I like the way she put it. The aisle's getting wider, and the actual people that fit inside those boxes, those numbers are going down. And it's this middle set. And I think it's true if you look at least in the last couple of presidential elections, you look at it's the independent voters that are the swing. That's all that matters, is at least politically speaking. Now, how accurate that is to the population is a whole other conversation. But that's one of the things that is most concerning to me, watching this thing kind of play out as it does. Not as much on the local level. It's a little less extreme here in town, but it still exists. Those city races being a good example is that game still plays, and I don't like it.
No, I don't like games. I don't like games. I don't like boxes. Somebody says, "Do you think outside the box?" I said, "I don't even see a box." What's the box?
Right.
And so what I'm looking at is I'm seeing we're trying to reach for the human platform. That's one of the things. Like, I have a great team, right? They go from the ages of 17 to 82. Alrighty, they are people who are all parties, no parties, all races and ethnicities. So what we've done is we're trying to run a human platform. We refuse to run a negative campaign because none of us are perfect. So that's not what we're here for. We're here to get past all of the sludge and all that mud throwing, and we're dealing straight with the people. One of the beautiful things about the color we chose is purple, because it's a color of unity. But the only way you make purple is you mix red and blue.
Did you catch Did you catch Jeopardy last night?
No, I didn't.
That whole purple category is fantastic.
No, okay.
Yeah. And then obviously there was a Prince clue in there as well. So
it's got to be.
And because again with the labels game or whatever, like I always kind of I will lean myself to the yellow party. I guess is the one that exists. I like to think of myself more in the libertarian camp. Mm-hmm. But it's like one of the guys I follow on Facebook. He has a pragmatist libertarian is, I guess, the better way to look at it. Like, realistically, yes, in my perfect version of the world, X, Y, and Z doesn't exist because I don't trust the government to do it or whatever. But in the real world, there is some level that we have to at least transition to my version of perfectness that involves these entities that we're used to, that we don't like the way things are going or how they're interacting with the public and stuff like that. And so that's the game for me, is trying to get an understanding, again, because we can't transition out of what is to what's next without at least understanding what is first. How do we make adjustments to what we have when we don't really know how it works?
Right.
Because again, that's one of the things for me that I'm so lost in, and especially like one of the things that's become like the most pet peeve thing of mine is when candidates run on topics that are outside the wheelhouse. Like, and I've got some people coming in who have already started the process, and I will talk to them about it when they get here, because it drives me nuts because schools is one of those really easy campaign topics, and I get that. But how much does commission do for schools?
Right. And so that's what I'm talking about. That's when we're talking about we want to go and learn of the different issues.
Right.
See, we're not perfect. We don't know everything. All right. And when we go to represent somebody, one of the things that we're trying to do is you'll start hearing about when we kick off our website. Well, I think it kicks off Monday. Is that what I've asked for, and I've got people who are coming on board, is what I call my commission cabinet. Okay, so I've got people in all walks of life, from all different parties, all different viewpoints, from all over the county, whose job it is to sit down with me and let's talk about education or mental illness or affordable housing, development, whatever it is, because that's their wheelhouse. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. So I can't help them when I go out here into the community. I can't go out there and just talk off the side of my face. I need to know what I'm talking about, understand from the different points of the county, like you say, of what is needed. Because like you said, from Hardin Valley, the roads lead everywhere.
Right.
So that is one of the things that I'm opening myself up to. I'm asking people, invite me into your communities, invite me to your groups, your neighborhood meetings, whatever it is, because I'm coming to listen. I'm coming to learn, because then when I go and sit on that commission counter at the table, mm-hmm. then I've got the information. I like data. I like facts. I want to know what you want, and then I can make an informed vote. But I don't want it to be something that comes from me from my emotional side, or I don't want to do that.
Right.
So that's what I'm looking for when I talk to people. And if you're, people that want to help me with the cabinet, people say cabinet, say yeah, because we're only as great as the people around us. We don't know everything, and I want to be able to tell the truth.
Yeah, I think that is a sorely missing characteristic of a lot of politicians. Again, it goes back to my media complaint earlier. This is one of those statements. This is, and it's not. You don't know that because that's not your expertise. It's like especially get the federal level. You got a lot of these guys that have been lawyers and stuff like that, and that was their career prior to. And it's like, well, you're talking about health stuff now. How do you what are you citing that is why X, Y, or Z? And I'm not trying to go down those rabbit holes. So let's go back to some of the stuff going on locally. Mental health is obviously an important issue for you. I do recall Mayor Jacobs a year or two ago was talking about putting some sort of new actual mental health facility in place to replace Lakeshore. I haven't heard any updates on that. Is that a project or something similar to that is high on your priority list?
Yes, and because I'm on the board with the Mental Health Association, I get a lot of information. We get a lot of facts. I understand when I talk about suicides, it's because I know that, like, there's been 94 suicides this year. I know
Right.
last year there was 384 fentanyl overdoses. When I'm working on the state level, we're trying to get across the state. We need facilities, not just Moccasin Bend in Chattanooga or the Middle Tennessee Health Place. Of course, Lakeshore is gone. They made a nice big Lakeshore Park out of it.
It is a nice park. I enjoy it.
Okay.
I didn't mind him with the building in the middle of it either, though, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt like it was kind of a weird thing to do, is have people walk circles around a building full of people that are a little bit
that need help,
right.
because what we have to, again, we have to be able to help each other. So one of the things, I know they're building the new 90-bed place off of Dowell Springs, and we're looking at, I like to see walk-in sites,
Right.
Because people, sometimes they just need help. And if you, like, I know a young woman who was needing help. Well, you've got to make an appointment, and then we'll get you in to be seen and try to get you stabilized. We have the safety center. Now, when we fought for that safety center, I'd like to see it used more.
Right.
I know it's a 3-day time period that you're there, but we also need places. It takes 9, even just from the drug overdose, if you're trying to rehabilitated from drug addiction. The people who have the good insurance and all that, it takes 2 years for your brain to reconnect with where you were before. So that needs to be for everybody, from the astronauts down to John Q. Public. We need places for people to heal.
Right.
So that's one. That's
right. I do agree with that in the general principles of it. And I think one of the things in this conversation that I feel like is generally missed, especially on drug abuse and drug overdose issues and stuff like that, is are you familiar with the Rat Park studies?
No, tell me.
It's very, very interesting studies. Like, so a lot of the initial studies of what we consider illicit drugs now on their addictive qualities and stuff like that were started in rat trials. And so it was rat trial stuff. And so you put a rat in a cage, you put 2 water bottles in the cage, one's laced with heroin or cocaine or something like that, and one's just water. And inevitably the rats will use the drug bottle until it kills them. And so this was back in the 60s, 70s, something like that. And then somewhere in the late 80s, early 90s, another guy kind of reattacked the same subject because he was very interested in addiction. He was studying addiction. Same thing, except instead of a empty cage and a stressed out rat, he put it like a bunch of stuff in the cage that rats enjoy, like wheels, other rats, stuff like that. And inevitably, they'd try the drug-laced bottle of water, but would never go back to it. And so the conclusion of this set of studies is basically is there's an environmental issue with why people get addicted to drugs. And so while, yes, rehab is super important because the addiction already exists, one of the questions, especially that is, to me, is policy capable, is how do we get people out of that position where that's the option to escape their life? That this is why I want to do, because I mean, it's like, I don't know. I was a high schooler once. I had access to all sorts of things. It's not a question of access. That's never been like, I'm again, I lean libertarian. I would be more than okay with the idea that most, if not all, what again we consider illicit drugs were legally and readily available for those that wanted it. Because I think it's accessibility has never been a problem for those that want it. If you want to get it, you can go get it. Everybody, if you put forth the effort, you can find it. It's the why do you want to put forth the effort to go and numb yourself for a period of time? And then why does that numbing better than what is? And I think that's one of the things that I think affordable housing goes into that conversation.
Yes.
Not having a place to live, not having secure sources for food and other things like that. And like just, when that hierarchy of needs isn't getting met, escape is the result. And we all do it on some level. That's why football is awesome. We go to football games to disappear. Nothing else exists for the 3 hours that you're in the stadium with 100,000 other people screaming and yelling. That's what it is. That's part of being human. But there's that whole aspect of the drug addiction, and especially the overdose stuff that's been going on, which to me, the pandemic and the shutdowns and all the stuff that came along with the pandemic exacerbated what already was. Yeah. Those kind of things to me I think is what that's missed in policy conversation. I don't know what a commission or a county level that could do to start addressing some of those issues that open the door for people to become addicts. Because I think that's a separate part outside of the thing itself. Because I think for most people, at least chemically normal people, and that's probably not the best wording for it, they're not going to lean on that unless they're trying to escape something.
Well,
And so if we can get
looking at that, we're talking about a type of equity or social infrastructure. I agree what you're saying that that there are other issues that are guiding up to that. So I think that when we look at that, can we find a ways that we can make things more equitable, all things being the same, that there's things that are missing in people's lives in certain different areas.
Right.
And let's find a way that we can meet those needs. I'm not the expert in, again, that's one of the areas that I'm looking at. Talk to me about what's going on, when we deal with the mental health issues, or we deal with that lack of affordable housing. But so I think that's a conversation and I think as a commissioner looking at that, again, it's about talking to people and then going and being that voice, not only, when I'm on this level, but when I go and talk on the state level, about these are the issues and they're not only just affecting us in Knox County. When we look at those kind of issues, this is across the board. You're talking about some human issues.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I think and again, that comes down to, I think there's the lack of understanding of where some of these responsibilities actually lie, because, like affordable housing is an interesting topic to me, because, I kind of fancy myself more of a capitalist mindset. That's kind of how I look at stuff. And so, especially in a market like Knox County is right now for housing and stuff like that,
man, that's crazy.
I don't like the idea of people being displaced. I really hate the idea of somebody who's renting and the owner sells it to somebody else, and that new owner jacks up rent. But at the same time, I can also understand that if I'm renting a home, that this house costs me this much to keep and maintain and make sure that it's at a livable level for you, I have to rent it for at least that much just to break even. And that's, not counting in insurance and all the other different stuff that piles on as a landlord. I'm not a landlord, so I don't know the full details of all they do. But the idea, I get the idea, but at the same time, I don't, we had a whole subset of conversation on our big show this last weekend. It's where should the government be in housing?
You make a point, because, I had a lady contact me, and she said, I've rented the house that I'm in, for 11 years. Now, like you said, there's a housing market boom. We're number 9 in the nation. People want to move here to Knoxville, Tennessee.
Apparently, we're 3rd in the highest percentage of, so what did I say is our rent increase over the last year is 3rd highest in the nation.
Yeah, and people still want it.
Right.
The one lady said I was going to sell my house for $325,000. Everything was going. Somebody came along, and the man said, "I'll give you $425 for it." Yeah. And then the lady that's there for 11 years, the lady told her, "Hey, you got to move. I've sold the house. You got 30 days to get out."
Right.
So I think that we have to look at where we got to make some affordable housing. Right now it's hard. You got people who are afraid that their own children, and they can be, upper middle class. One lady said, "I don't know if my own child will be able to buy a home like I did 30 years ago based on how the housing market is. Will they have to end up living are we going to create little communities where everybody's living in, buying a big house, and different little families and groups are living in there because you can't afford that unit?" But, we got to find a way, I think, from our perspective, from the government side, to create some affordable housing. I think we need to raise the wages. I think that's important. But when you got a woman who lives in East Knoxville and she's paying $1,200 for a 2-bedroom apartment, she works in Cedar Bluff,
right,
and her kids go to Cedar Bluff, but she can't move over because the rent is 3 times as much. We got to find a way to level the playing field so we can live affordably all over Knox County.
Right. Okay, so again, I'm fully interested in this idea, but what are some of the ways as a commissioner that you could push that?
Well, I think we got to talk to developers. I think we need to talk to people who are building. We got to get down on the human level. And not everybody got the right, to make a profit, to make some money. But we have got to get to that human element. We've got to make sure that we all rise together. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying I know all the answers, but I know that is one thing that I would be liking to talk to people about.
Right. Because I think it's and I guess this rolls into what, in my opinion, is the most important, or at least the most impactful thing the commission does is the land use conversation. Because one of the ways we can drive down the cost of living, not cost of living per se, but the cost of housing in the area, is to significantly increase the inventory of homes. Because I think that's part of why this madness that's going on right now is that we're not built like the number of people trying to get here versus the number of houses available to get.
Didn't we get behind? I think, I'm not understand. I'm talking to developers, but I think somewhere we got behind, from what I understand, 3 or 4 years ago in our building of Knoxville, or preparing,
Right.
new homes, and now we're playing catch up.
Right.
So that's, I'm what is it going to take?
Right. Because this is a thought I had. This is a few years ago before I started doing the podcast and started really looking into it. It's like, it's always seemed to me like I went to UT, and when I was at UT, like, or actually, especially when I was in high school before I went to UT, I kind of resented how strong UT is as an impact on the county and the city specifically. And like the thought had crossed my mind, it's like Knoxville is in this weird little middle spot. Like we're especially now that we're growing as quickly as we are, but we're in this weird little middle spot. We're not a little college town anymore, but we're not a big city. Because you go down to Atlanta, Georgia Tech doesn't matter. Georgia Tech doesn't shut down Atlanta for the day because they're having a football game.
You don't have a baby during football season.
Right. Georgia Tech, right. You don't get married. You're right. You don't get married during football season. Georgia Tech doesn't push back on a new civic auditorium or civic coliseum rather, because they want to keep it in their campus, which I don't know the full depths of it, but that's always been my assumption on why we can't get a better civic. The civic was 70s. And it's tiny and it's terrible. The only thing it sort of does well is hockey, and it doesn't do that very well. I grew up in the North where they play hockey a lot, so I like hockey. But it's just it's a bad venue, and it's our city county venue, and it's like it's bad, and well, we can't do anything with it because UT doesn't want it. And like we're like that, that's been a broader conversation. And I know talking to Kim, one of your opponents, about it, and this 30-year plan that she was a part of working on before this. That I find that I think is an interesting topic that again, this is one of those complaints from me, is that I don't hear much about it. Like I think there needs to be some real conversation about not getting behind, about being ahead of the curve moving forward, because okay, fine, we've got 10,000 new houses in town, but how's anybody getting from their house to work? Is the infrastructure coming with it? Can we afford the infrastructure coming with it? Because that rolls into the next obvious question to ask any candidate on county commission is, what are we going to do about taxes?
And I think that we have to understand that taxes is a part of living.
Right.
And I think that we need to really look at, if we are going to grow in this city or in the county, we need to really take a real good look at what our tax levels are and what we need to do as far as that needs to come along with the changes that we're making. When we're looking at a 5-year, 10-year, 30-year plan.
I think we should do an import tax. I think if you move in from out of county, you should pay extra taxes. Those of us that are here should just stay the same.
Oh, really?
It's a little selfish, I know.
You gotta put some bulletproof glass.
I'm not sure it's I'm not sure that's legal or anything. I'm just throwing ideas out. I'm an ideas guy.
We open to listening.
We'll see how all that lands with developers, because they're not going to like that. But because again, I think that's like, to me, the more I've gotten into this, the better understanding. I think land use and development is probably the top impactful thing. That and taxes, I guess, would be the top two things that commission has complete, or at least commission in conjunction with the mayor's office has complete control over. I think those are the biggest things that I think, especially land use is more commission than the mayor's office. I think land use is the conversation to have, and then the infrastructure to keep up with it. Those are the two biggest things to me that commission does that seem to be the least interesting to the most people. And they like to complain about the crappy roads, but they don't like to talk about them.
Well, there was something today about the number of damages right now for the roads.
Oh, you have you're a great example, because you just pulled in. The big road out there, city. As soon as you get onto my road, it turns county, and there's a line on the road where the city didn't pave it, and it's county paved. Right, you could feel it driving into my neighborhood. It goes from pretty smooth to for the rest of the way in. And again, it's a game. It's a big, complicated game that we've got to try to figure out and how to prepare for. But I'm always trying to figure out how we make these decisions, what the and then that long-term plan. I think that long-term plan is to me needs to be the most top of the list thing that people need to get out and get an understanding of. And I think that, and I put that on you and the other commissioners, and as well as the mayor's office, at getting better at making that a priority for the transparency of it.
Yeah.
Because like I was talking to everybody I talked to, like, I don't agree with Mayor Jacobs on a lot of stuff, but that Friday thing he does, I like.
Yeah.
Like, I like that Friday thing because it's an update and gives me at least some things are going on. I'm sure he leaves out certain items that he doesn't want to talk about as much and puts in things that he's extra proud of and stuff like that. But at least it's something about all the different things that are going on. And I'd like to see more of that.
And I would like, when you're talking about infrastructure and the 30-year plan, when Seema and I were talking about the affordable housing, we started doing, we've been doing town halls and talking to people, I guess, for a long, long time. We started that in 2018. We went around to all the different parts of the county. We set it up, through the zip codes.
Right.
But we brought in different subject matter experts for a town hall meeting, about, affordable housing and all the pieces that go into it. And I think, that was very effective as far as, like you're talking about, raising the awareness. The people got to understand what's going on and how it affects their community and how it affects. We got to start thinking about the whole.
Right.
This has got to be a synergistic growth.
Right.
Okay?
Well, see, but I think one of the things that's missing too is I think we've got to figure out a way to make it individually engaging. Because I think it's real easy. Because there's a short list of things that I joke about as as kind of the genesis for doing the podcast. Is I had a big issue with rural metro, and that got me to Hugh Nystrom because it was something that affected me. And so I started talking to Hugh, and I was trying to figure out how this works and this, that, and the other. And like that was the end of the fuse that started the explosion of me doing this podcast, for lack of a better metaphor to throw together in a second. And so, because I've heard the joke a bunch of different times, local government doesn't matter until it matters. And so for me, it didn't matter until it mattered with that incident for me. And now that it has, right. And so how do we get people to understand that it is personal, even if it's not, burning down your own house or something like that is a concern for my particular situation.
You call individual, the second word was when we're talking about, when you called it something individual,
engagement, maybe.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah.
Like just a way for like some way that we can get people to recognize that as much as it isn't your yard, it is your neighborhood, it is your city, it is your county. To get people to feel like it's a personal thing, like my rural metro thing, even though it's something going on in Hardin Valley, or it's something going on in downtown or East Knoxville or something like that. Like all the different things that are going on around us. Again, we joked about it early in the show. It's like everything's going on in Hardin Valley. That's all anybody seems to talk about in development and stuff like that. But it affects me out here. It affects my business up in Powell, and so like it's all interconnected. So how do we get people to how do we get that engagement, even though a lot of people don't connect the dots, I guess, of that.
I wonder if we can, find a way to hear the people's stories. Like, when you talked to Hugh, you were telling him your story.
Oh yeah, I was mad. I felt really bad. I was really mad. It wasn't at him. Like I apologized. Like I don't think I cussed at him, but I apologized.
You kind of exploded.
I apologized because I was like, I'm not yelling at you. It's like the poor girl when you're calling AT&T because your service sucks. It's not her fault the service is bad, but you're the point of contact, so I got to yell at you, and it's rough.
Yeah, so I think that you're hitting on something, and I'll have to look at that on how to do that individual.
Because again, engagement. Again, I think it's it's one of those. It's obnoxiously obvious if you go back and pull voting numbers, it was a big year in city elections this year, and it was not that many people.
They did vote.
We did that. It's like 20. Was it like 25,000?
It wasn't nowhere near what we needed to be.
Right, but that was a big year for a non-mayor year for a city race,
yes,
and it's like 25,000 of like 200. I think is what Chris Davis was telling me. It's about 200,000. There was like 200,000 city voters that voted in the 2020 election, that included the president, but only like 30,000 that voted in the off-year one that didn't have a mayor's race. Yeah, didn't have anything else special going on. It was just a couple of city county people. And
because historically people they don't want to vote if it's not a presidential year. But when we're talking about engaging people, one of the things that we found when we did the census, that as a recruiter and a supervisor, we started looking at the numbers, and we went and told the people, this is $675 billion census, so it's going to affect your numbers, as you were looking at redistricting now, of course, and we see. But we were able to, when we went into the communities and we started talking to them, like in the 37915 and the Powell areas and different places, especially like in 37915, we were able to get the numbers up to almost 8%. And we broke it down again, going to every point of the county and going into the sub-communities, that a little bit here and a little bit there makes a big difference. If you have engagement of the people. You know,
Right.
this, you're looking at, you need this money for these roads.
Right.
You know, you need this, but it's that engagement. It's just like that going to Hugh. You know, I'm willing to put myself out there. Let me go out here and let's talk about it. Let me go talk to my cabinet and let me bring you some numbers about what's happening in your community, because people don't understand you can affect change, and we have got to take our power back. We, as the people, have to understand that we put those people on commission or city council.
Right.
You know, and we have to
Oh,
understand.
right.
that.
And again, that's why I keep using the metaphor of we're the hiring manager, and you're a candidate for hire.
Right.
You know, we're hiring you to work for us. It's not we're permitting you to do whatever the job is. It's we are hiring you to go represent us. That's the premise, and I think that's that's not a mindset that normal people look at it anymore.
And they've got to. Don't forget about me. When I knocked on your door and I made these promises to you, and I said, I'm going to go back and I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to remember what you said, like Joseph when he was in prison and the baker forgot about him, you know, when he went back to the Pharaoh. But understand that when you get in that position, that person has a right to come to you and say, hey, what about this issue? You don't say, I don't have time for that, or, oh, that's not important. No, you can't do that. And people have to understand, you put them in there, you can get them out.
Right.
And they need to understand that.
I've looked into the process. It's not easy.
No, I know it's not easy, but that is so important that you represent those that put you in office.
You know, and like we like to make fun of like the cancel culture and the shame stuff that goes on, especially in social media and stuff like that. But like, I don't know if that is an elected official. I think is one of the few groups that should be allowed to be shamed publicly in that way. We put you here to do the thing, and you're doing the opposite, and we're going to make us think about it. You know, we may not pull your job because it's too hard to go through the whole process, but we're at least going to make it clear that we're not happy about it.
Yeah,
and anybody else that's running for else that's running for office around you that's going to have a term between the end of yours and now, we're going to be sure that they're not aligning with what you're trying to do, because we're going to take that apart. And it goes into that engagement thing that's missing, you know, and we have a short attention span. It's going to be real interesting as these campaigns continue on stuff that 2 summers ago was a huge deal and was commission was getting 7-hour meetings out of, and all the complaining about particular commissioners at the time, and a couple of them are rerunning right now. And it's like, are we going to remember those conversations? Or or do we just let those go because it wasn't yesterday or 2 days ago, it was 2 years ago, and so it's easy to forget. Do you have anything specific that you wanted to cover that I maybe have missed in our wanderings, like I like to do?
No, I just want people to give me an opportunity, to come into their space. I want to call it their space. Okay, give me an opportunity to come and listen to you. Help me to understand what you need. One thing that I think is important, when I'm talking about people being a voice and going before the people, is that Monday, I think at 5:00, they're going to have that school board meeting about equity policy.
Mm-hmm.
People need to sign up and speak about that. They need to speak truth to the power.
Right.
So I want people to contact me and let's talk about land use. I need to understand what you want. What you see, that I need to be able to see through your eyes. So we've got a kickoff March 19th. I want everybody to know about that. We're going to be at Public Works Building from 4 to 7.
Okay.
And I want everybody to come by, come volunteer, come listen, come meet me.
Okay. We'll talk more about that stuff on the outro, but
I gotta go pick up in grandkids at 2. I told you when I came on 2:00 because there's a madhouse.
All right. So then we got so I've got 5 questions, a standard 5 questions I ask everybody. Mm-hmm. All my candidates coming through right now, and so we'll go through the 5 questions, and then we'll do these specific plugs, any events or websites and stuff like that. All right, 5 questions. Question number 1 is we've talked about it a little bit, but just to put it in the short format, is this your first time running? Is this your highest goal politically? So is this the first seat you've ever sat? And as this moves forward, do you see yourself moving, either continuing to seek this position or seek other positions in the future?
When I ran before, I was going to run for city council. This will be my first time. Never set a seat before. I do plan on.
So hold on, you ran for city council?
I was going to want to run. Remember?
Oh yeah, because you had intent to, but the legalities got in the way. Check.
Yeah. Okay. So I never held a seat.
Okay.
But so I hopefully do this one. If you hear my grandson has a plan for me now. He said we do, he said, Granny, we're going to do the county commission, then we're going to do a senator, and then you're going to be the president of the United States.
I mean, that's cool. I mean, let's say county commission's 4, senators 4. So, yeah, I mean, 72 is young for presidents nowadays.
Oh, yeah, because I'm going to be, my life goal has always been to be 120, to wear purple, to be a healer. So,
check.
Yeah, so I'm nowhere near.
So presidents presidents on the future docket. Check. All right, number 2 is, what is your favorite ice cream?
Butter pecan.
Check. Number 3 is, what is your favorite place to eat here?
Red Lobster.
Red Lobster, that's always a good one. Those biscuits. I knew it was the biscuits. All right, number 4 is, do you feel like partisanship, or not partisanship, excuse me, but do you feel like partisan elections and partisan primaries are a benefit to me, the voter?
I think that you, the voter, need to pick the person. That's look for the person that's going to be the best candidate.
Okay, that's good. I mean, that's what I feel too. But anyway, it's not these aren't right or wrongs. These are just to get a feel of you. And then number 5 is, so you are running as a Democrat, which at least as of right now, you don't have to worry about May. You get to go all the way till August as of right now, unless another Democrat pops in. I'll talk to Matt Shears and see if I don't think he knows of anybody that's coming in, but I haven't talked to him in a couple of days. But partisanship is an issue to me. We've talked about it a couple of different times in here. And so question 5 is, as a Democrat, name me a Republican that you respect and feel like does good work in the job. It can be local, state, or national.
Well, I believe when I pick people, I voted for Democrats and Republicans. I think I look for the person, so you have that right. That's one of the greatest rights we have in America, is our right to choose. That's people keep wanting to move here, people dying to get here. So, I have many of them that I like that I have great respect for. Larson J is one of them.
Right. That's become a simple one for Democrats, and I know why. But anyway, that's not important.
No,
all right.
I know Larson has helped me in a lot of different projects.
Right. And I like Larson a lot, and I think
yes.
I think it goes back to what Dominic Oakley was talking about, is that they're like, I see him as a maybe right side of the aisle, but he's not. He's still in the aisle. He's not in the right side. Mm-hmm. But okay, so that's the 5 questions. Now it's plug time. You said the website's kicking off in a couple of days.
Yes.
Do you have the website? Do you actually have the domain name already, or is that not settled yet?
It's not settled. We'll have everything done by Monday. I've got voteforshipe@gmail.com.
Okay.
I have a site, Vivian Shipe for Knox County Commission,
okay.
on Facebook.
On Facebook, yeah.
So those are different spots, and then I'll get the information to you as we get the site up, and just ask people just to look for me.
Okay, like in the episode, I'll put a link to your Facebook page as well as
Okay.
that email address, so people can at least get that direct on there. And when the site comes out, I'll add it to my cheat sheet thing I was telling you about earlier. I mean, I don't know. You should check it out. It's fun.
I will.
We can do it right now because we got nothing else to do. You
Okay.
you only have you don't have time. I don't have it available. Never mind. That's my job description sheet. And so, like, what I try to do is try to go down. And it's like, these are who's on the ballot. And I found a couple of different resources to So Board of Ed, where's County Commission? Go to you. Some of it's me filling in my own stuff. Links to the County Commission website, terms, salary, the big cans and can'ts. Because this is that's the one that drives me nuts. It's going to happen. I know I'm going to hear it. It's already happening. Is that, somebody's going to say that CRT in schools is an issue, and they're going to be running as commissioner. And it's like, that's fine. You can say that, but that's not the job. You don't get to change that. You have no input on curriculum in schools. So you can talk about it, but it's not part of your job. So please don't. It drives me crazy. But that's what I got. I really appreciate it. It was fun. Anything else you want to say before we call it a day?
No, I enjoyed it. I just ask everybody just to look at the candidates, look and talk to them, ask the hard questions, know and make sure that they understand that they are representing you, and to definitely just go vote. Make sure that you vote. Don't just talk to somebody and not go in there. Go in there and push that button. See,
I disagree. Do your research. Make sure you know who you're voting for, and then go vote. I hate like I think one of the things that drives me, like, I don't know, I go back and forth on whether I'd prefer. Part of me almost wants less voter engagement when all you're doing is picking the D or the R. I would rather you pick if you don't want to pick a person, if you don't want to take the time to at least understand who you're voting for, if all you're going in is to pull the D or the R for whichever team,
you can't do that.
Don't bother. That's my. I don't know. That's my controversial topic for the day. Anyway, outro music. Vivian Shipe, everybody. That was super fun. like I said, she doesn't have to worry till August, at least as of right now. So we'll check back with her once we get to see who she's actually directly running against. Once some of these things go on. Like I said, I'm joking about the idea of maybe trying to do a couple of debates this year. We'll see if I can. It's hard enough to get one person to get scheduled in the room at the same time. Trying to get 2 or 3 or 4, we'll get extra crazy on top of that. Anyway, we're almost in agreement at gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. You can go to our website, almostinagreement.com. As I mentioned in the show, we've got the job description sheet, and then I'm also working on the election guide, for lack of a better word. It's going to give you at least a rundown of who's running for what seat and some links either to their website or their Facebook page, as well as a link to the episode when I get them on the show. Yep, I've got Eric Lutton here in a couple hours, and then we're going to do a big show, and then I've got like 6 more next week, so I'm staying busy on this, and we're going to keep them coming at you. We appreciate everybody listening, and stay tuned.